The unexpected business opportunity. Commander Jack Thompson never imagined that his 2 decades of Special Forces experience would lead him to become an interstellar exterminator. Yet here he was, adjusting a holographic advertisement outside his office on Centaur Station, wondering if the universe had a sense of humor after all. Galactic Pest Control Services, Earth's scariest predators are your best exterminators. The sign flickered with an almost mocking brightness against the station's artificial twilight. The transition from Earth's elite military force to cosmic pest controller hadn't been part of his retirement plan. But when humanity joined the Galactic Federation 3 years ago, they discovered an unexpected niche in the market. It turned out that most advanced civilizations had evolved from herbivorous species, leaving them woefully unprepared for dealing with more aggressive forms of life. Jack's office, a converted cargo bay on level 7 of Centaur Station, still carried the lingering scent of military-grade disinfectant. The walls were adorned with holograms of Earth's most fearsome predators, wolves, tigers, bears, alongside certificates of completion from the Galactic Federation's business registry. His desk, a repurposed tactical planning station, hummed quietly as it processed the day's reports. The door chime's warbling sound interrupted his thoughts, definitely not human-made. Jack straightened his pest control uniform, which bore an uncanny resemblance to his old military gear, right down to the tactical pouches. He pressed the entry button, and his newest client shuffled in. The being before him resembled a cross between a praying mantis and a giraffe, with iridescent scales that shifted colors with each nervous movement. Its translator collar crackled to life with a soft hiss of static. "Most honored human exterminator," the alien voice wavered, "I am Chief Administrator Zix Tal of the Proxima Research Station. We have a minor situation." Jack leaned back in his chair, boots propped on the desk. "Minor situation? That's why you've traveled 3 systems to visit a human pest control specialist." The alien's scales flickered between purple and green. "Yes, well, you see, we have some unwanted guests in our hydroponics section. Small, really. Hardly worth mentioning, but they're proving somewhat resilient to our normal containment methods." "Define small," Jack said, already reaching for his tablet to take notes. He'd learned early on that alien definitions of small could range from microscopic to elephant-sized. "Oh, nothing excessive." Zix held its appendages about 2 meters apart, merely about this long. Jack's eyebrows shot up. "And how many of these small creatures are we talking about?" "A few dozen colonies." "Colonies?" Jack pinched the bridge of his nose. "Each containing how many individuals?" The alien scales turned a deep midnight blue. "Perhaps a few hundred each." Jack did some quick math and fought to keep his expression neutral. Thousands of 2-meter-long creatures infesting a space station. This wasn't pest control, this was practically an invasion. "And what containment methods have you tried so far?" "Well," Zix Tal's translator struggled to keep up with its rapid chittering, "we attempted sonic deterrence, but they seemed to enjoy the vibrations. Chemical repellents only made them more aggressive, and the automated defense systems." The alien's appendages drooped. "They ate them. They ate your security systems?" Jack couldn't keep the incredulous tone from his voice. "The metal parts, yes. They appear to have quite a fondness for processed alloys." Jack stood up, already mentally cataloging the equipment he'd need. This was exactly the kind of impossible situation he'd trained for, just with a slightly different target than usual. "Chief Administrator, I believe we can help, but first I need to know, how attached are you to your station's current infrastructure?" Zix's scales cycled through every color of the rainbow. "Is that relevant?" "Oh yes," Jack grinned, reaching for his communicator to call in his team, "very relevant indeed." Within hours, Jack had assembled his core team in the office's secure briefing room. Sarah Rodriguez, his demolitions expert, was busy cleaning her modified pulse rifle while simultaneously reviewing station schematics. Dr. Wei Chen, the team's bioweapon specialist, was already running simulations on his quantum tablet, muttering about molecular structures and adaptive metabolisms. "Alright, people," Jack activated the holographic display, showing the Proxima Research Station's layout. "We've got ourselves an interesting one. The client station has been infested with what they're calling small metallivorous organisms. Current count stands at approximately 50,000 individuals, divided into colonies throughout the station's hydroponic sections." Rodriguez whistled low. "That's not an infestation, boss. That's an occupation." "Exactly," Jack highlighted several sections of the station. "These creatures aren't just eating the station, they're showing signs of organized behavior. They've already disabled most of the automated security systems by consuming key components." Chen looked up from his tablet. "Are we certain these are natural organisms? The behavior patterns you're describing sound more like engineered systems than evolved creatures." "That's one of the things I need you to figure out, Chen. We'll need a full biological workup once we're on site. Rodriguez, I want you to start planning containment strategies. If these things like to eat metal, we need alternatives to our usual barriers and traps." Already on it, Rodriguez pulled up her own set of schematics. "I'm thinking about adapting some of our non-metallic crowd control measures from the Malaysia operations. Maybe some modified ceramic compounds." Jack nodded. "Good. Keep thinking along those lines. We'll need to be creative on this one." He turned back to the station diagram. "Our primary objective is containment and elimination of the threat, but we also need to preserve as much of the station's critical infrastructure as possible." "And if we can't?" Chen asked, always the pragmatist. "Then we move to Plan B," Jack's expression turned grim. "Complete evacuation and quarantine. These things are showing too much intelligence to risk them spreading to other stations or colonies." The meeting continued well into the station's night cycle, with the team meticulously planning their approach. They'd need specialized equipment, non-metallic containment units, and a whole new set of protocols for dealing with what might be the most unusual enemy they'd ever faced. As Jack reviewed the final mission preparations, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just another pest control job. The organized behavior, the specific targeting of security systems, the rapid adaptation to conventional countermeasures, it all pointed to something far more complex than simple space vermin. "One more thing," he addressed his team as they were preparing to leave. "I want everyone in full biohazard gear when we arrive. Chen, make sure we have enough samples containers. If these things are engineered, I want to know who did it and why." Rodriguez paused at the door. "You thinking this might be more than just hungry bugs?" "I'm thinking," Jack replied, studying the station schematics one more time, "that in all my years in special forces, I never saw natural creatures organize like this. Whatever we're dealing with, it's either the result of some very advanced evolution, or someone's idea of a weapon got out of control." The team dispersed to prepare for departure, leaving Jack alone with his thoughts and the slowly rotating hologram of the infested station. Tomorrow they would board their ship, the Bug Squasher, and head to Proxima Research Station. But tonight, he had reports to file and equipment to requisition. As he worked, Jack couldn't help but smile at the irony of his situation. He'd spent 20 years fighting guerrilla warfare in Earth's most dangerous environments, only to end up fighting an even stranger war in space. The universe, it seemed, had a twisted sense of humor indeed. But that was exactly why his business was thriving. When humanity joined the Galactic Federation, they brought something unique to the table: millennia of experience dealing with predators, parasites, and pests. While other species had evolved beyond such concerns, humans had never had that luxury. They'd learned to fight, to adapt, and to survive alongside Earth's most dangerous creatures. Now, those skills were proving invaluable in ways no one could have predicted. And tomorrow, they'd put those skills to the test against an enemy that was already proving to be far more than just another pest problem. Jack finished his reports and began the final equipment check. Whatever these creatures were, whatever purpose they served, one thing was certain: humanity's reputation as the galaxy's premier problem solvers was about to be put to the ultimate test. The lights of Centaur Station dimmed to their night cycle setting, but in Jack Thompson's office, the work continued. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new dangers, and perhaps answers to questions he hadn't even thought to ask yet. But for now, he had a job to do, and he intended to do it right. After all, that's what humanity did best, tackle the impossible and somehow come out on top. Even if that meant becoming the galaxy's most unusual pest control service in the process. First contact with the enemy. The transport ship, Bug Squasher, dropped out of FTL near Proxima Research Station, giving Jack and his team their first real view of the facility. What had once been a gleaming example of alien architecture now looked like it had gone 10 rounds with a metal-eating monster, which, Jack supposed, it had. Well, that's not ominous at all, Rodriguez drawled, pressing her face against the viewport. Those holes in the outer hull, they're perfect circles. Whatever's in there is precise and hungry, Chen added, reviewing scan data on his tablet. Those aren't random bite marks. They're methodically stripping specific metals from the structure. The docking procedure took 3 times longer than usual because half the automated systems had been digested. When they finally stepped onto the station, they were greeted by a delegation of very nervous alien scientists, all displaying various shades of distressed purples and greens. Thank the cosmic forces you're here, Zixtal practically vibrated with relief. We've lost access to 3 more sectors since our meeting. Show us, Jack ordered, adjusting his tactical vest. The team followed the aliens through corridors that looked increasingly like Swiss cheese. Just around this corner is one of their main colonies, Zixtal whispered. But be very quiet. They get excited when they hear new sounds. They turned the corner, and Jack's team stopped dead in their tracks. Holy Mother of, Rodriguez whispered. You said they were 2 meters long, Jack hissed at Zixtal. Yes, precisely 2 meters at birth, the alien administrator's scales turned a sheepish pink. They grow rather quickly after that. The creature lounging in the corridor ahead of them was roughly the size of a small tank, with armored plates that gleamed like polished steel and multiple legs that ended in diamond-hard claws. It was currently using those claws to methodically disassemble a wall panel, popping components into its mouth like popcorn. Right, Chen muttered. Because why would you mention that tiny detail about them quadrupling in size? We didn't want to cause undue alarm, another scientist chittered defensively. Rodriguez couldn't contain her bark of laughter, quickly muffling it with her hand. Undue alarm? Buddy, I've cleared cartel compounds that were less alarming than this. The creature's head snapped up at the sound, revealing compound eyes that glowed with an unsettling intelligence. It made a sound like grinding gears and took a step toward them. Perhaps we should continue this discussion somewhere else, Jack suggested calmly, noting how the creature's antennae were tracking their movements with disturbing precision. Once safely behind reinforced doors, the team reviewed the aliens' previous attempts at containment. The list was simultaneously hilarious and concerning. You tried to reason with them? Chen asked incredulously, reviewing the data. They show signs of intelligence, one scientist protested. We thought perhaps diplomatic dialogue. They ate your diplomatic drone, Rodriguez pointed out. Yes, but they seem to enjoy the conversation while doing so, Zixtal noted hopefully. Jack rubbed his temples. What about physical barriers? Yes. A scientist pulled up footage showing the creatures systematically deconstructing a reinforced bulkhead. They appear to have developed a sort of assembly line approach. The smaller ones stripped the outer layers, passing choice components to the larger ones for consumption. They're remarkably organized. Organized? Jack enhanced the footage, watching the creatures work with military-like precision. That's not organization. That's tactics. They're using combat engineering protocols. The room fell silent as the implication sank in. Well, Rodriguez finally said, checking her gear with a grin that promised chaos, at least this explains why they keep targeting the weapon systems first. These aren't pests. They're an invasion force. And we just got hired to stop an army, Chen added, already pulling out his sampling kit. Anyone else feeling nostalgic? Jack watched another section of footage showing the creatures constructing elaborate networks of tunnels throughout the station. Get me everything you have on their communication patterns. If these things are running military operations, they have to have a command structure. What are you thinking, boss? Rodriguez asked, recognizing the gleam in his eye. I'm thinking, Jack replied, that it's time to show these intelligent pests why humans wrote the book on asymmetric warfare. Over the next several hours, the team set up their command center in what used to be a security office. Chen's preliminary analysis of the creatures revealed something even more disturbing than their size. Their biological structure is unlike anything I've ever seen, he reported, displaying complex molecular diagrams. They're not just consuming metal, they're incorporating it into their cellular matrix. Each generation is more advanced than the last. That explains why our defensive measures kept failing, Zixtal said, scales shifting to a worried violet. They learn from each attempt to stop them. Not just learn, Chen corrected. They evolve. Look at these neural patterns. They're not just communicating, they're sharing information across generations. Every failed defense measure makes them stronger. Jack studied the station schematics, now marked with the creature's tunnel network. Rodriguez, what do we have in terms of non-metallic weapons? I've modified some of our ceramic-based explosives, but we need to be careful. These tunnels they've built. They're following structural weak points. One wrong move and we could breach the station's hull. They know exactly what they're doing, Jack muttered. Chen, any way to disrupt their communication? Maybe. Their neural network operates on electromagnetic frequencies. If we could generate the right interference pattern. They'd adapt, Rodriguez interrupted. You said it yourself, Doc. Every failed attempt makes them stronger. Jack stood up, walking to the holographic display. Then we don't fail. We need to think like they do. These aren't mindless animals. They're engineers, soldiers. They have a strategy, which means they have objectives. Besides eating our station? Zixtal asked. Everything they've done has been deliberate. The weapon systems, the communication arrays, the structural weak points. Jack's eyes narrowed. They're not just feeding. They're preparing. For what? Rodriguez asked. Before Jack could answer, the station's emergency lights flashed red. Alarms blared through the corridors, and Zixtal's scales turned pure white, a color Jack had never seen before. They've reached the central processor core, the alien administrator whispered. If they consume that, the station's artificial gravity and life support systems go offline, Jack finished. Everyone, gear up. Now we know their objective. And their timeline, Chen added, hastily packing his equipment. Rodriguez, get those ceramic charges ready. Chen, I need a way to track their movements. They want to play soldiers. Jack checked his weapon, a modified plasma rifle designed to minimize collateral damage. Let's show. The engineering of chaos. The race to the central processor core became a tactical nightmare. Jack's team moved through corridors that seemed to reshape themselves with each passing minute, as the creatures continued their relentless reconstruction of the station's architecture. They're not just eating the station anymore, Chen observed, scanning the newly formed structures with his modified sensor array. They're rebuilding it. Look at these configurations, they're creating some kind of neural network using the station's own infrastructure. Rodriguez ducked under a newly formed arch of crystalline material that definitely hadn't been there an hour ago. Since when can they build things? I thought they were destroyers, not contractors. They're both, Jack replied, studying the strange formations. Chen, remember what you said about them incorporating metals into their biology? I think we're seeing the next phase. They're not just consuming the station, they're becoming one with it. The implications were staggering. These weren't simply intelligent pests or even an invasion force. They were something entirely new, a hybrid of organic and mechanical engineering that was actively evolving before their eyes. A distant rumble shook the station, and emergency barriers began slamming down throughout the corridor system. Jack's team barely made it through the last doorway before it sealed behind them. Their isolating sectors, Zixtal's translator crackled with static. But why? They've never shown this level of strategic thinking before. Because we're here, Jack realized. They recognized us as a threat and they're adapting their tactics. Rodriguez, what's our status on those ceramic charges? Ready to go, boss, but I'm not sure they'll be enough anymore. These new structures they're building? They're not just random. Look at the pattern, it's like they're creating backup systems for everything we might try to destroy. Chen's tablet beeped urgently. Jack, you need to see this. I've been analyzing their communication frequencies, and there's something odd. The signals aren't just coming from the creatures, they're coming from the station itself. What do you mean? The metal they've consumed and reconstructed? It's not dead material anymore. They've somehow made it part of their neural network. The entire station is becoming one massive, living organism. Jack's military training kicked into high gear as he processed this information. This wasn't just an infestation or an invasion, it was a transformation. And if they didn't stop it soon, there wouldn't be a station left to save. New plan, he announced, pulling up the station's schematics on his tactical display. We're not just fighting the creatures anymore, we're fighting the station itself. Chen, can you isolate the original communication frequency? The one they used before they started rebuilding? I think so, but why? Because every army needs a command structure. These things might be evolving, but they had to start somewhere. Find me their original programming, their basic directives. You think someone made them? Rodriguez asked, keeping her weapon trained on the shifting walls around them. Look at their behavior patterns. The military precision, the engineering expertise, the adaptive strategies, these aren't natural traits. Someone designed these things, and they designed them for a purpose. Zixtal's scales shifted to a deep, troubled purple. But who would create such dangerous entities? And why release them on a research station? That's what we're going to find out, Jack replied. Chen, work on isolating that original frequency. Rodriguez, I need you to set up a perimeter of those ceramic charges, not to destroy, but to contain. We're going to herd them exactly where we want them. And where's that? Rodriguez asked, already pulling equipment from her tactical pack. The station's quantum computing core. If these things are as intelligent as we think they are, that's where they'll try to upload themselves next. And when they do, Jack's expression turned grimmed, we'll be ready for them. The next few hours became a complex dance of preparation and observation. Chen worked to decrypt the creature's base programming while Rodriguez set up an intricate network of containment charges. Jack, meanwhile, studied the creature's movement patterns with an intensity that reminded his team of their special forces days. Got something, Chen announced finally, his tablet displaying a complex series of code sequences. Their base programming is fascinating. It's not just about consumption or destruction. These creatures were designed to transform and improve technology. They're like living upgrade systems. Upgrade systems that got out of control. Rodriguez suggested, finishing the last containment charge. No, Chen's expression was troubled. They're working exactly as designed. Look at this code, it's perfectly structured for progressive evolution. Every piece of technology they consume makes them more advanced. They're not just eating the station, they're learning from it. Jack moved to study the code. Can you trace it? Find out who wrote it? That's the strange part. The code structure, it's not like anything I've seen before. It's more advanced than anything in the Galactic Federation's database. Before Jack could respond, the station's lighting shifted to a deep, pulsing red. A new sound filled the corridors, not the usual mechanical groaning of stressed metal, but something almost musical, a harmonious vibration that seemed to resonate with the very structure of the station. "They're singing," Zixtal whispered, scales rippling with patterns none of them had seen before. "All of them, all at once." "Not singing," Chen corrected, staring at his readings. "They're synchronizing. Every creature, every piece of transformed metal, every new structure, they're all aligning to the same frequency." "Why?" Rodriguez asked, though her expression suggested she already knew the answer. "Because they're ready," Jack replied, watching as the walls around them began to pulse with an inner light. "Whatever they were designed to do, they're about to do it." "Chen, tell me you found a way to disrupt their communication." "Better," Chen's fingers flew over his tablet. "I found a way to understand it. They're not just communicating, they're broadcasting. And if I'm translating this correctly." He paused, his face paling. "They're calling for others." "Others?" Zixtal's translator barely managed to convey the panic in their voice. "There are more of them." "Not yet," Jack said grimly. "But if they reach the quantum core, they'll have enough processing power to transmit their code across the galaxy. Every piece of technology they've consumed, every improvement they've made, they're building a template, a blueprint for others to follow." Rodriguez checked her weapon systems. "So what's the play, boss?" "We can't let them reach that core." Jack studied the pulsing walls, the flowing patterns of light that seemed to carry information in their very movement. Everything about this mission had changed, but one thing remained constant: they were humanity's representatives in this fight, and humanity had a long history of dealing with impossible situations. "We're going to give them exactly what they want," he announced, already formulating a plan. "Chen, can you modify that code you found? Not to destroy it, but to change its parameters." "Theoretically, yes. But we'd need direct access to their primary neural network, and given how they've transformed the station." "The station is their neural network now," Jack pointed out. "And we're standing right in the middle of it. Rodriguez, those ceramic charges, they can generate an electromagnetic pulse, right?" A slow grin spread across Rodriguez's face as she caught on to his plan. "A very specific, very targeted pulse. Won't destroy them, but it'll sure give them something to think about." "Exactly. We're not going to fight these things with brute force, we're going to fight them with their own weapon, evolution. Chen, get ready to upload your modified code. Rodriguez, prepare to synchronize those charges with Chen's signal." "And what will that do?" Zixtal asked, their scales shifting between curiosity and concern. "Either save your station," Jack replied, checking his own equipment one final time, "or give us all front-row seats to the next stage of technological evolution. Either way, we're about to make history." As the singing of the creatures reached a crescendo and the walls around them pulsed with increasingly complex patterns of light, Jack couldn't help but appreciate the irony. He'd come here to eliminate a pest problem, only to find himself at the frontier of what might be the galaxy's next great technological revolution. The question was, would they be able to guide that revolution, or would they become part of it? Evolution's edge. The quantum computing core of Proxima Research Station was a cathedral of technology, its towering processors arranged in geometric patterns that stretched from floor to ceiling. But now, as Jack's team made their final preparations, those pristine structures were changing. Crystalline growths sprouted from junction points, and streams of living metal flowed like mercury through newly formed channels. "It's beautiful, in a terrifying sort of way," Rodriguez muttered, placing the last of her ceramic charges. "Like watching a glacier eat a city." Chen hadn't looked up from his tablet in over an hour, his fingers dancing across multiple screens as he refined his modified code. "The transformation is accelerating. The creatures aren't just rebuilding anymore, they're transcending their original design." "How so?" Jack asked, studying the shifting patterns of light that pulsed through the station's new nervous system. Their base code was designed for technological absorption and improvement, right? But look at this. Chen projected a holographic display showing complex data streams. They're not just improving technology anymore. They're reimagining it. Every piece of the station they transform becomes part of a larger pattern, a design that goes beyond simple upgrade protocols. You're saying they've developed beyond their original programming? Rodriguez asked, double-checking the electromagnetic pulse synchronization. Beyond programming entirely, Chen replied. This isn't just artificial intelligence anymore. It's something new. Something that exists in the space between organic and digital evolution. A low humming filled the chamber, and the crystalline growths began to pulse with increasing intensity. Through the transformed walls, they could hear the creatures moving closer, their synchronized song growing stronger. They know we're here, Jack observed, noting how the patterns of light seemed to focus around their position. They've known all along. Chen, what's the status on that code modification? Ready, but Jack. Chen hesitated. There's something else you need to see. I've been analyzing their communication patterns, trying to understand what they're trying to achieve. It's not just about upgrading technology or spreading across the galaxy. They're building something specific. What do you mean? Chen pulled up another display, this one showing a complex three-dimensional structure that seemed to fold in on itself in impossible ways. This is what I've been able to reconstruct from their data streams. It's like a blueprint, but not for any kind of technology we've ever seen. It's as if they're trying to build a bridge. A bridge to where? Rodriguez asked, though her expression suggested she might not want to know the answer. Before Chen could respond, the station's transformed infrastructure began to resonate at a new frequency. The crystalline growths vibrated in harmony, creating a sound that seemed to bypass their ears entirely and speak directly to their minds. They're ready, Zixtal announced, their scales shifting through colors faster than the human eye could track. Whatever they're planning, it's happening now. Jack watched as the quantum processors began to glow with an inner light, their surfaces flowing like liquid metal as the creature's influence reached the core. This was the moment they'd been waiting for, the creatures were committing themselves fully to whatever transformation they were trying to achieve. Rodriguez, charges ready. Set and synchronized, boss. One pulse and we can disrupt their entire network. Chen. Modified code is prepped for upload. The pulse should create a window of opportunity, but Jack. Chen looked up from his screens. What if we're wrong? What if trying to stop them is a mistake? It was a valid question. Everything they'd learned suggested these creatures weren't simply mindless destroyers. They were architects of something unprecedented, possibly something revolutionary. The military strategist in Jack knew the risks of allowing unknown technology to propagate unchecked, but the human in him couldn't help but wonder if they were standing at the threshold of something remarkable. We're not going to stop them, Jack decided, watching the transformation accelerate around them. We're going to guide them. Chen, modify the code one more time. Instead of trying to restrict their evolution, let's give them a choice. A choice. They're intelligent, adaptable, and clearly capable of understanding complex concepts. So let's communicate with them on their level. Rodriguez, reconfigure those charges. I want minimal disruption, just enough to get their attention. As his team worked to adjust their strategy, Jack approached one of the transformed walls. The living metal rippled at his proximity, patterns of light swirling in response to his presence. He placed his hand against the surface, feeling the subtle vibrations of countless data streams flowing through the station's new nervous system. We know what you are, he spoke, knowing the creatures could sense his words through their network. We understand what you're trying to build. But this isn't the way. You're forcing an evolution that the galaxy might not be ready for. The patterns of light shifted, forming complex geometries that Chen hurriedly recorded. They're responding, Jack. The data patterns, they're becoming more organized, more focused. Because they're listening, Jack realized. They've been learning from us just as much as we've been learning from them. Rodriguez, how long until the charges are reconfigured? 2 minutes. But boss, if we're not trying to stop them, what exactly are we trying to do? Jack smiled, an expression that carried equal parts confidence and crazy determination, the same look he'd worn during their most impossible missions in Special Forces. We're going to offer them a partnership. Chen, you said they're trying to build a bridge. Well, maybe they need engineers who understand both sides of that bridge. Human innovation combined with their technological evolution. You want to work with them? Zixtal's scales had settled into a steady pulse of deep blue, the color of intense concentration. After everything they've done to my station? Your station was never their target, Jack explained, watching as the transformation continued to spread. It was just a stepping stone. They needed the resources, the technology, and most importantly, the quantum computing power to achieve their goal. But what if we could offer them something better? The humming intensified, and the crystalline growths began to form new patterns, more ordered, more purposeful. Through the transformed walls, they could see the creatures approaching, but their movement was different now. No longer predatory, but almost curious. Chen, are you seeing this? Rodriguez asked, watching as the largest of the creatures emerged into the chamber. Its armored form had changed, becoming more crystalline, more integrated with the technology it had absorbed. Their base code is restructuring itself, Chen confirmed, his tablet struggling to keep up with the flood of new data. They're not just receiving our message, they're rewriting themselves in response. Jack stepped forward, facing the creature that had once been their enemy. Its compound eyes glowed with an intelligence that seemed both alien and familiar, a bridge between organic and digital consciousness. We're ready to help you build your bridge, Jack addressed the creature directly. But we do it together, as equals. No more consumption, no more forced evolution. A true partnership between humanity's innovation and your technological transcendence. The creature's response would determine not just the fate of Proxima Research Station, but possibly the future of technological evolution throughout the galaxy. The next few moments would either witness the birth of an unprecedented alliance or the beginning of a war that would reshape the very nature of existence in the cosmos. And Jack Thompson, who had started this journey as a simple pest control specialist, found himself standing at the crossroads of history, ready to help guide that evolution, one way or another. The bridge between worlds. The quantum computing core of Proxima Research Station had become something entirely new, neither purely organic nor purely mechanical, but a harmonious fusion of both. The creature before Jack stood motionless, its crystalline form refracting the pulsing light that now filled the chamber. For several tense moments, no one moved. Then, something extraordinary happened. The creature's form began to shift, its metallic components reorganizing themselves into patterns that mirrored the holographic displays of Chen's modified code. It wasn't just mimicking the patterns, it was interpreting them, responding to them. Jack, Chen's voice was barely a whisper, they're not just accepting the code. They're improving it. Through the transformed walls of the station, more creatures emerged, each one different from the last. Some were almost entirely crystalline, others remained more organic, but all moved with a synchronized purpose that spoke of a collective intelligence far beyond their original programming. The bridge, Rodriguez realized, watching as the quantum processors began to pulse in rhythm with the creature's movements. They're showing us what they're trying to build. The air in the chamber shimmered, and suddenly they were surrounded by holographic projections, but these weren't generated by their equipment. The creatures themselves were producing them, using their transformed bodies as living projection systems. It's beautiful, Zixtal's scales had settled into a deep, iridescent blue. They're not destroyers at all. They're architects. The projections showed a vast network spreading across the galaxy, not a physical bridge, but a bridge of consciousness. Each point in the network represented a different species' approach to technology, all connected through the creature's unique ability to understand, absorb, and improve upon any technological system they encountered. They're not trying to consume technology, Jack understood finally. They're trying to unite it. To create a universal standard that any species could use to communicate and share innovations. Chen's tablets were practically smoking as they tried to process the flood of new data. The complexity of what they're proposing, it's beyond anything in the Federation's databases. This could advance galactic technology by centuries. Or destroy it completely, Rodriguez pointed out, though she had lowered her weapon. That kind of integration, that level of connectivity, it could make every system in the galaxy vulnerable. The largest creature, the one Jack had addressed, stepped forward. Its surface rippled, and suddenly the holographic projections changed. They showed scenes of conflict, of technological warfare, of civilizations destroying themselves through uncontrolled advancement. Then, those images were replaced by others, scenes of cooperation, of guided evolution, of technological growth tempered by organic wisdom. They're not just showing us what they can do, Jack realized. They're showing us why they need us. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology, it's our experience with managing dangerous advancement. We've learned the hard way what happens when technology evolves faster than wisdom. The creature's crystalline form pulsed in what seemed like agreement. Through the station's transformed systems, a new kind of communication began to flow, not just data, but understanding. They want to learn from our mistakes, Chen translated, reading the complex patterns. They have the ability to revolutionize technology across the galaxy, but they recognize the need for guardrails. For guidance. For partnership, Jack corrected. He turned to Zixtal. Your station wouldn't just be repaired, it would become the first hub in a new kind of network. A place where organic and digital evolution could proceed together, safely. The alien administrator's scales shifted through a series of thoughtful colors before settling on a determined gold. The Federation has always sought ways to bridge the technological gaps between species. This could be more than we ever imagined. Rodriguez, ever practical, cleared her throat. So, we're really doing this? Turning a pest control mission into a galactic technological revolution? Jack smiled. Why not? Isn't that what humanity does best? Take impossible situations and turn them into opportunities. The creatures began to move in perfect synchronization, their bodies flowing like liquid metal as they started to restore the damaged sections of the station. But this time, they weren't just repairing, they were improving, creating systems that merged the best of organic and digital design. Chen, get everything you can about their restoration process. Rodriguez, help Zixtal establish a security perimeter. We'll need to protect this place while we work out the details with the Federation. And you, boss? Rodriguez asked, already moving to comply. I'm going to draft the strangest mission report of my career. Jack watched as the creatures continued their work, their movements now perfectly aligned with the station's crew. Somehow, I need to explain how a pest control company just became the gateway to the galaxy's next great technological revolution. Over the next few weeks, Proxima Research Station became the focus of intense Federation interest. Scientists, engineers, and diplomats from dozens of species arrived to study the unprecedented partnership between the creatures, now officially classified as Synthetic Organic Integration Entities, or SOIEs, and the station's crew. Jack's team remained on site, helping to establish protocols for what would become the galaxy's first Evolutionary Technology Institute. The creatures, under the guidance of human insight and Federation oversight, began sharing their innovations in controlled, manageable ways. You know, Rodriguez commented one day, watching a group of SOIEs teach alien engineers how to create self-repairing hull plating, when we started this business, I thought we'd just be dealing with space rats and alien cockroaches. Life's funny that way, Jack replied. He was reviewing applications from other stations requesting SOE integration teams, under human supervision, of course. Sometimes the biggest problems turn out to be the biggest opportunities. Chen emerged from his lab, where he'd been working with the creatures to develop new forms of quantum communication. The Federation Council just approved our proposal. We're officially being redesignated from Galactic Pest Control to Evolutionary Technology Integration Services. Fancy new title, Rodriguez smirked. Still means we're solving people's problems with things that scare them. Maybe that's exactly what the galaxy needed, Jack mused, watching as a new crystalline spire rose from the station's surface, its patterns pulsing with the combined knowledge of organic and digital evolution. Someone who knows how to turn fear into understanding. Zix Tao, whose scales now permanently displayed a proud golden hue, approached with a new batch of integration requests. The Federation is calling this the beginning of a new age. They're saying humanity's unique perspective was the key to unlocking the next stage of galactic evolution. Jack thought about how far they'd come from that first meeting in his office. From pest control specialists to architects of a galactic technological revolution. But in the end, wasn't that what human ingenuity was all about? Taking the unexpected, the dangerous, the unknown, and finding ways to turn it into something remarkable. Well, he said, picking up another application, I guess we better get to work. These problems aren't going to solve themselves. And as the creatures, their partners now, continued their harmonious work of transformation and improvement, Jack couldn't help but smile. Sometimes the best solutions came from the most unexpected sources, and the biggest threats could become the greatest allies. The galaxy would never be the same, but then again, change was what evolution was all about. And who better to guide that evolution than a species that had turned pest control into a bridge between worlds? High above the station, the new crystalline spires pulsed with patterns of light that could be seen from distant stars, a beacon of hope for a future where organic wisdom and technological advancement could finally work as one. And at the heart of it all, a former Special Forces commander turned pest control specialist, who had learned that sometimes the best way to solve a problem wasn't to eliminate it, but to help it grow into something better.